Hi everyone and welcome to Sonic Academy with me, Chris. Today we have another interview for you. He was resident DJ from 2007 in one of the seminal trance clubs in England, and that was the Passion in Colville. He played alongside the likes of Tiesto, Ferry Corsten and some guy called Chris Agnelli. He's now moved into production and is releasing on the likes of Juna Beats and Vandit. Please welcome to Sonic Academy, Genix, otherwise known as Damien. How you doing, Damien?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How's yourself?
I'm not too bad. Thank you very much for joining us today. Let's jump right in. Where did it all start for you? You grew up luckily beside Colville, which is a small kind of mining town in central England that had this amazing club. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I first got into music just through, just the love of it, listening to dance music, electronical music, the likes of Prodigy and various bands and acts like that. And then I wanted to become a DJ. I wanted to start mixing the music I was listening to. I was obviously no good at the time, and I've been DJing probably since I was 18, and I'm 31 now. So it's been a long process, a long career to get to sort of where I am with my DJing now. But I mean, shortly after I fell in love with the DJing side of things and mixing vinyls, because I used to collect all those as well. I started wanting to make music as well, so I started with just some really old school basic Sonic Foundry stuff, just literally dropping any kind of audio samples I had at the time, just really basic stuff and dropping it in, and that's where it all started really, and yeah, went from there.
Let's go back to Passion. It was one of my favourite venues to play. I mean, I remember the first time we played it, I think it was the 9th birthday with Ferry Corsten, and literally we walked in these doors, this very small town in England, and opened the doors, and it was just this lunacy going on inside. It was incredible, and the vibe, and for anybody that didn't know Passion, probably about 5 feet, 6 feet in front of the DJ box, there was a podium that people stood and danced on. It was just this atmosphere. How did you get involved in Passion and sort of become resident DJ in there?
Well, I met a good friend at the time, JFK, who was running events in Hinckley. This is after he'd just the first time he'd sort of left as promoter at the time. So I started visiting his events in Hinckley, which is my hometown where I'm from. He was booking the likes of Rank One and some other people like that. So I approached him and asked him if I could get involved with that. Things went from there. He then started working back at the Emporium. At this time, I was already sort of helping him with promotions, running around, sticking billboards on lampposts all the time, and yeah. So then, after maybe a year or so after he'd gone back to the Emporium, he made me the resident of Passion, which was a pretty amazing thing. I mean, it's just something that everybody wanted to do, and everybody wanted to achieve and to be that. So I was quite overwhelmed when that happened. It was a fantastic thing. I mean, the club, as you just pointed out, was absolutely incredible. I mean, I've DJed in some amazing venues, amazing places, but I've never been anywhere with the atmosphere. There's just pure energy, and it was totally unbelievable. And like you say, it was in a tiny little town in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and people flocked to it from across the whole of the country. I mean, there's something like really magical about that place. The pilgrimage of people coming from, I don't know, Newcastle, Scotland, even Broad, just to visit these events. And it wasn't just the clubbers who wanted to visit there. It was the DJs as well. I mean, it was a quite nostalgic and special place to play as a DJ. And like I say, that when I got asked to, made resident for Passion, it was pretty special and something I'm really proud of.
What do you think it was about the club? I could never put my finger. It was definitely one of our favourite venues to visit in the country. What do you think? I think kids today are missing out on that pilgrimage that we did. A lot of motorway miles, travelling to clubs, that sort of sense of adventure, that getting in the car up and down to service stations and getting out, and this sense of, we don't know where we are, but we're just going to go and have an amazing time, and we would come out of that club at 6 o'clock in the morning. It would be bright sunshine, and it was just like, whoa. What do you think made the Emporium? Why would people travel to it?
I actually think it was. I mean, it's like I say, it was the whole. People do a lot more travelling to go to clubs nowadays, simply in the UK because there's less events, so they have to travel to get to them. But I think a few years ago there was. I mean, it was just so special, and people had maybe been or heard about this place, and they'd travel 2 hours in the car. That whole excitement of building up and travelling and getting to this in a tiny little old mining town. Mm-hmm. It sort of built up the anticipation of the clubbers. I mean, the queues were going around the block, and people getting really excited. And I think when they actually walked into the entrance of the Emporium, and it's like up the sloped entrance, if you remember, and you look left into the main room, and you could see the DJ booth and that podium just in front of it. I mean, that whole thing, that whole journey was what made the atmosphere in there so amazing. I think people just sort of exploded when they got in there, and it was just so much energy in the room. And I mean, that reflected, and it bounced. The DJs bounced off it. I mean, I think that's why a lot of DJs will probably say it's one of the best places they've ever played, just because of that energy off the crowd. And I don't think you get that many places in the world. Not that I've been anyway.
It's a really thankless job being a resident DJ. You know, and you'll know from traveling the globe, there are really good resident DJs, and then there's really shit resident DJs. Yeah. What did the sort of 4 or 5 years of being a resident teach you that bled into your productions then afterwards? Okay, well, I mean, I took the resident DJs normally fill in the slots around the guests, so they'll be playing at the start of the night or at the end of the night. For example, every time I used to visit the Emporium as a clubber, before I was working in the music industry, Mark West was their resident DJ, the warm-up DJ, and James Holden, and they were amazing. They were playing the right music at the right time. It builds the night. Music's a journey, so to start early on in the night, you'd obviously want sort of a slower BPM, slower tempo. And then towards the end of the night, more energy, like, I don't know, more arpeggiated trance riffs or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there is an art to being a resident DJ. You've got to know when to play the right music at the right time. As a guest DJ, I mean, you would just be going there to play, I don't know, the tunes that you've made, or like people will be supporting you, people who have heard your music or know of you will be coming to see you. So you can do a little bit more with your sets. Whereas if you're a resident, you have to sort of play the right music at the right time, like I said. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to production, because I think that's, you know, probably what the mainstay of these interviews are about, is to try and find out, you know, what you use on your drums, how do you approach things. So let's go back to how do you think you've developed your sounds? Kind of really evolved into a classy trance sound, and it's quite soft. What is that, a purposeful thing?
I don't think it's purposeful, no. I think the key thing that I've always stuck to is I've always made music that I've liked. Yeah. I've never tried to force a sound that I was trying to go into something a little bit different. I mean, a lot of people always tell me you can always tell a Genix track. I mean, I've always liked sort of gritty grooves, rhythmic bass lines, and a track that comes on in a club and you think, wow, that's really cool, really groovy. And if you listen to my old stuff, I mean, that sort of idea and context to the music is always been there till now. So it's not changed that much. I mean, the quality of my output now is a lot better than it used to be. It's just because I've progressed and improved as a music producer, which everybody will do. But yeah, I mean, soft. I mean, I try and make again the music that I like, music that I feel, something that I'd like to hear if I was in a club, and I think that reflects you as a musician, you as an artist, and it gives you a unique identity. I mean, there's a lot of producers who I think are trying to make something that sounds like somebody else, or they're trying to make an Island Bluestone track, or they're trying to sound like Paul van Dyk, and there's so many producers like that, and the music will just get washed amongst the rest of it. I think to do well, you've got to be unique and be yourself, and just follow inspirational guides of other music, but I think you should always write what you like, and that's what I do.
I think, I mean, that's definitely one thing you can say. When you hear a Genix track, you can actually tell it's you. You've got, I mean, it's almost glitchy in the chopped upness of the bass lines and the way the bass line works with the percussion and stuff. What's your main DAW? What DAW do you use?
I'm on Logic 9.
Were you always Logic?
I have been, yeah. Before that, I was on Fruity Loops, but I found that limited at the time. It's not anymore. Yeah. But I think that was easier to produce in because it's more sort of copy and paste. You can just bang drums in really easily. But I wanted to use hardware, and at the time, I don't think, it may have done, but I don't think Fruity Loops was. You could link hardware up with it. I mean, I used to have loads of hardware: Nord Lead 2, Axis Virus C, Novation Nova, JP88 to a Roland synth, and I used to route them all through a mixing desk, which is a bit monotonous after time, and you're having to record all the sounds, and sometimes doesn't save you presets you've just been working on, and so yeah, and it's much better now. It was much easier and to use synths that are built into the DAW. Are
you completely in the box now? You've no external synths or anything. You completely mix in Logic.
I've actually got an Axis Virus TI Polar synth in front of me, but I use it sometimes, but not as much as I should. And I'm actually just using it as a sound card at the minute.
Okay,
an expensive sound card.
Let's talk about your big sawy pads that you are so very, very good at. What is your main go-to synth for those sort of big chordal pads?
There's a few. Probably Silence.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a favourite with a lot of producers, especially in trance music, because you can get some nice clean saw sounds out of it. Massive, just layering the sounds up. I mean, I don't think you could just get one sound out of Silence. I don't know, maybe you get a preset library and you flick through and you maybe find something that you like or you like the sound of, but I think if you just put that in on its own, I don't think it would be substantial enough to fill it out and make it big enough. So yeah, a lot of layering with maybe two Silence or a massive, or Spire synth's quite good as well.
And a lot of people ask us about layering. They find it sometimes hard to grasp how to layer. What do you look for when you're layering? Are you looking for frequency bands or fizziness, or what sort of things can you advise when approaching layering, especially those big chordal pads?
Well, I mean, it's like the old question of how do you use a compressor? I mean, there's no rules that you should actually stick by. I mean, there's guidelines, but it's just a case of, in my opinion, just playing around. And I mean, you might find something that sits nice on the top end, and then that might be a bit thin. So maybe you get a bassier sort of pad, or drop it an octave. So you can maybe put the lighter synth over the top of the heavier with a bit more bottom end synth, and then route them all through to one bus channel, so you can then compress them all together, so it actually is almost one sound.
What compressor would you reach for then?
You can use the built-in Logic ones, or something like LFO tool if you're going to do some stuck-in and side-chaining and things like that. The AOM limiter.
Would you use LFO tool over side-chaining through a Logic compressor, say?
Yeah, you could do that.
No, but I'm saying, is that what you do?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. I mean, there's every single track I make and every single thing I do is pretty different. I always start with a blank canvas. I know a lot of people will use, I don't know, a template or a grid of something that they've previously done and it's been successful. But I don't. I always start completely fresh. There's some of the patches and maybe the odd effects and stuff here. They're the only thing I'll use in the same tracks. Stuff that doesn't really get noticed as much, but I know works. Again,
a lot of your sounds really relies on that big reverb. What's your go-to reverb?
The Arts Acoustic one.
Right, bizarre. Yeah. That's we I just did an interview with Sevens Guys.
Okay.
He's the same. He was the Arts Acoustic.
Yeah.
But he has subsequently moved to the name escapes me now. Somebody help me out. Valhalla. That's the one. Valhalla. Yeah. Do you use that?
Not even heard of it, so no.
It's a brilliant, beautifully designed. Basically he's recreated every vintage reverb there is, and it's really simple actually, and I think deadly cheap as well to go and buy. So yeah, go if you're looking for sweet reverbs. Valhalla is the one for you. What other effects would you have set up then? What sort of template effects would you use?
What do you mean, like sort of chorus and phase and things?
Or delays, any sort of go-to delay, that's something
the delay
signature to your sound?
Yeah, the main delay, I try and not use too many effects. I mean, reverb, yes, but you've got to get it right in the mix, else it just makes everything sound a bit caked and a bit thick. So I'd sometimes maybe like send a synth to a bus and then just take all the bottom end off it, so your synth still will punch through and you can alter the amount of reverb you want to put on it. But for delay, I mean, I use the Waves H delay.
Right.
That's pretty good. You get a really nice stereo delay on that. But not a lot. I really like my stuff to be crisp and just come through and quite minimal almost, but just big at the same time.
They're definitely. I mean, you have a real clinical sound. Are you very fastidious about cutting lows and EQing, or are you really into the EQing and moving everything to the frequency bands, or what way do you approach that?
I spend an awful lot of time. I'm absolutely terrible, in fact. I mean, I should be writing twice the amount of music I'm doing if for the amount of time I spend sat in the studio making music. But I'm really maybe too critical of getting everything sitting right, and I should just be letting it flow a little bit more. But I mean EQs and things, I mean, it's all by ear to me. I just like things like, I don't know, tom drums that you're layering with kicks. I mean, you've got to be careful the frequencies there, else you're going to get like a muddy sort of thing. Take all the bottom end off, like percussion, hi-hats and things like that. The snares, I like to put a bit of low mid, so it gives a bit of
body,
sort of punch.
Yeah. And when you talked earlier about you sit down with a blank canvas.
Yeah.
When you sit down, do you sit down with the label in mind? So do you sit down thinking, this is a Vandit day, or this is an Juna Beats day, or do you just do stuff and then when it's finished go, right, I think that's a Vandit vibe, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, I think if you do that, if you set off thinking, right, I'm going to write a track for Juna Beats, I think you'll be limiting yourself in some way as a music producer, because you'll just be writing that kind of sound. Mm-hmm. I think it's always good to have an idea of where you'd like to sign the track, but I mean, halfway through you might be writing and it might change, and then that'll limit the sort of next part of the track you're going to write. So I always, I mean, the labels that I currently release with, I always try and aim for that sort of sound, well, which is my sound. So I always try and go for something like that.
I want to talk specifically about one. I think it was a real standout track for me last year, which was Run.
Okay.
The clap in it, I love the real tightness. So where did that come from?
I think I chopped that out of a loop, if I remember.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure.
Can you send it to me?
Yeah, I can if you like. Yeah.
The other track I've been listening to is Koto. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Oh, Koto, yeah.
Yeah. The bass line in it's really funky. Like it's almost, I mean, a Michael Jackson-y kind of vibe to it. Is that? Am I missing the point there?
Somebody told me it sounded like Backstreet Boys or something. I was like, what the hell?
No, I'm not going to Backstreet Boys.
No, but I don't know what you mean. The bass line before the drop, I mean.
But that's what I genuinely loved about it. It was like, I mean, that's
it's kind of like
different,
yeah. But it's it reminded me of like a J-Tech sort of track that one, like the rolling sort of bass line at the start. But I mean, that was just a simple like I always try and have like sort of a cool little rhythmy catchy bit in my bass line, and that was the swingy bit that almost between the beats.
Yeah.
That sort of drives it on a little bit.
And a track like Run, when you send it off to Anjuna, the boys there, is there a lot of to and fro trying to get it right, or are they kind of, you know, is it done when it's done, or are they kind of really picky about the mix downs and how it's arranged?
Yeah, I'd say yes. Sometimes, I mean, the reason Juna Beats, in my opinion, so successful is the fact that they are quite specific about certain levels of mix downs, or this is a really great track, but it could do with a bit of a stronger hook on it. So sometimes, yeah, I do send tracks. I mean, I added something to Run for them. I worked on the Durban mix down and the Breather mix down a little bit more. And I always change little bits here and there when they ask me to do that. But I mean, that's that I don't mind. I mean, that's why they're so successful, and that's why, I mean, if you get your tracks played on the radio station or signed to their label, they get massive exposure globally. So I mean, it's great for you as an artist. So it's worth doing it. Sometimes you think it's perfect. You've made this perfect track, and as a producer, you sort of stand by your own work and not obliged to change it sometimes. But I think it's always good to have other people's opinions. I mean, for me, I sit here writing stuff, loads of stuff. I mean, probably half the stuff I write that I just go, no, I don't want that. Okay. It's probably really good, but because I've sat here listening to it for a kick drum loop for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you lose a bit of belief in it. So it's always good to listen to other people and have their input on everything you do. How
do you keep the enthusiasm going? How do you keep that going into that studio every day and going, I just love listening to kick drums, rather than going, if I hear another kick drum, I'm going to
Well, I've always been a very driven person. I want to achieve as much as possible. Right back from when I first started. I mean, I remember when I finished college, my dad said to me, "What do you want to be?" I says, "Do you know what? I've just finished my A levels at design. I've got no idea." And he says, "Well, why don't you go into music?" And I said, "Well, I can't play any instruments." But he said that to me because I was sitting till 4 a.m. on my old computer trying to make music every night, trying to put beats and stuff together. So I went to music college there, and yeah, I mean, I'm so enthusiastic, and I
still love it.
Still love it, yeah.
I think that's important. If you're 17, 18 and you're not sitting you're at your computer to 4 a.m. totally consumed by this, then bail out as quickly as you can, because it's the only way that you're going to break through is that you have 10 years of just forgetting you have a life, forgetting you have a social life, and just working. Yeah. And, you know, I
agree. It's a lot of time that you've got to spend locked away. I mean, it's quite of antisocial thing being a music producer, and you are sort of locked away from your girlfriend and your friends or whatever, and you have to put time into it to get the rewards out of it. Else, if you don't, you won't get any rewards. I mean, you will never improve to the level that you will want to be or should be to make it in the music industry. I mean, the buzz you get off hearing your music played at a festival, for example, or as a DJ playing your own music and feedback live of their reactions and someone enjoying it. I mean, there's nothing better than that. No. I mean, that's what drives me on still as well.
Yeah. Let's go back to the production, the master channel. Do you have much processing going on there? Do you compress, EQ, or do you leave it kind of clean? Is it all done prior to getting to the master bus?
Well, I mean, I've started recently, probably in the last 6 months, actually, this is going to sound really weird, almost mastering the track before it's finished.
Right.
So I normally actually try and get everything as good, compressed, and as fat sounding as I can before it actually hits the master. Uh-huh. So it's already pretty clean. But from probably 4 months ago, I've been actually compressing everything that I've already got. And actually working on the mix as I'm making the track, because sometimes when you put some processing on a master, it brings out sort of elements in the sound that you didn't hear before. So you might not need as much percussion, or you might not need as much reverb on certain things. I mean,
are you saying that you put on your mastering chain and then make the track into the mastering chain, so you're getting more of a sense of the final sound? Is that right?
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool.
I mean, look, there's no right and wrong way to doing it. I mean, some people will write a really thin track, stick loads of stuff on the master, like Ozone. I mean, that's like a little mastering suite you can get, or any compressors, limiters, and things, and then try and spend hours again on the mix trying to get it right, to sound good. But I mean, I actually do it sort of as I'm going along now and try and get everything to sound as good when I'm doing it, so that's what it's going to sound like when it's finished.
Have you any secret weapons in the studio? We talked to Meyer Levy and he told us about Maserati GTI, which I now absolutely love. Have you any sort of these plugins that nobody would think about using that you use and you know to achieve your sound? Is there any sort of secret weapon you've got?
I would say probably not. I mean, I'd use the standard setup to what anybody else who releases my sort of music would. There's nothing that I'd really. No, not really. Just the normal, the waves, the massive synths, Spire, just all those sort of.
Do you do?
I use
sound design, or are you tweaking presets type of producer?
I'd probably tweak a lot more presets because it's easy to find. I mean, you spend hours programming synths to try and get something you want it to sound like, and it probably won't. So I mean, it is easier and less time consuming to actually go and maybe find a bass sound, flick through, and find something that you kind of want, and then you can always alter it. I mean, you can compress the hell out of something, and it will sound completely different as well. But yeah, I have done a few, but not too many.
What about, let's talk about remixing. It's something you're quite prolific at. Is it a process you enjoy, or would you rather be making your own material?
I would say, well, as a new producer, I'd say it's always easier to learn how to produce by remixing something else, because you've already got the content, and that applies the same now. Almost. The remixes are, I don't know. I'm really picky with them now. I only just looked the other day actually at my discography, and I didn't realise how much music I'd made. I've done over 50 remixes and 50 singles or something. So it's quite a lot of remixes. But I do tend to enjoy some of them. Some of them, I'm doing a couple at the minute, and I'm almost forcing it. I don't even really like the track. So.
Do you ever feel sometimes you're getting tracks in and they're going, we know this isn't a good track, can you make it a good track? So you're almost on production duties. Do you feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. You can tell when that happens. But I mean, compared to writing your own music, it's a completely different thing. I mean, writing your own music, you've got to come up with the imagination, you've got to come up with the ideas, the musical content, the structure of the whole track. But with remixes, and a lot of that's already been done for you, so you're just almost rearranging it and then banging your own stamp on top of it.
I have to say, again, another track that I loved in the last 6 months was your Juna Beats Beach remix.
Okay,
that was a collab, was it? With
with the Las Salinas guys.
Yeah. And how did that come about?
Well, we'd done a couple of tracks on Vandit together last year, Say Another What and Arcadia. So they actually started doing the remix sort of on their own back and said, look, do you like this, what we've done? And they'd made this like really cool groove section, and a lot of people say to me, I can tell you've done the groove section, but no, they did it, and it was really catchy, and I really liked it, and they asked me if I wanted to collab on it, because they'd only just done the first sort of maybe third of the track, I'd say. So I said yes, and then we just put all the chords, the piano, and the big pads, and just laid it all up, and then that got released last year, I think. Yeah,
it was like, it was really good. Tell me, when you just touched on it there, how do you approach? I mean, the whole key to the style of music you make is those big chords. How do you approach writing the chords? Do you input with the mouse and sort of faff about until you get something you like, or do you play keyboards, or how do you approach it?
Well, I'm not an actual. I can't play the piano. I can't play classical music or anything like that. I've got a really good ear for chord sequences, and if some music's playing, like any kind of track's playing, I could instantly just press my keyboard and I'd know what key it's in. I could write sub melodies and things like that. But for chords, I mean, yeah, I can maybe start with a couple of chords and then just trial and error, just working out I mean, for me, chords are, especially in the music I write, it's the feeling and the moment of the track where what really sort of grabs you inside and touches you almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those chord sequences, I mean, you might have to spend weeks to get it perfect, but they're the ones for me that they're the best ones, but they're hard to do. But yeah, you can. Sometimes I've got stacks of MIDI files. You can get inspiration from them and just change MIDI files around. Yeah,
it was something I suppose I really not struggled with, but I spent probably like you days getting the chord sequences, and I think probably a lot of young producers up and coming now think that it's you know, you can do this sort of stuff in half an hour, you know, an hour, you get your sequence together and then move on. And you know, well, especially for me, it never worked like that. I would spend you know, up to 3 weeks on a track just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. You know, is it same for you?
I'm exactly the same. I'm no different to anyone else, and because I'm so self-critical, it seems to take me longer. Like I'll do a lot of running, so I'll make I'd make a rough edit of the track, and I'll go and listen to it, and then I'll keep listening to it on loop, and for days and days, I'm thinking the structure's not right there, and the chords could be a little bit different. The transitions between the bass and the breakdowns, and it all needs to flow like as one. So it takes me absolutely ages.
That's probably why you're so fit, is because you're doing so much rather than listening to the tracks. Let's lastly touch upon the other aspect of your career, which is the DJing. And has it taken a bit of a backseat while you really concentrate on getting a ton of music out this year?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I've got essentially a US tour coming up, some in Indonesia, and a lot in the UK, Ministry of Sound, some festivals is all coming up. But I've not had that many gigs just after Christmas, so it's been really nice just to sit here and really nail some music production, because that's where the gigs and the tours come from, off the back of it. And you don't make much money anymore actually selling your records, unlike maybe 10 or 15 years ago, where if you released a vinyl and it got into the charts, you'd be paying your mortgage off. Now you hardly make any. Now you have to sort of build a profile the same way as you did before, but your money comes from touring. So you've got the DJing and the music production definitely would come hand in hand there. And
is it something? Do you still love getting out in front of the crowd, playing the music? And I wanted to ask you as well about the UK scene and how you feel about it. What sort of state do you think it's in at the moment? It's a weird one, isn't it?
Well, I see both sides of the coin. Well, not so much now, because I mean I was a promoter and a DJ for the last like 7 years or so. So I could see. I mean, it's not what it was in its glory days in 2000 till 2003, 4, whatever. I think it's become with the economy. People can't really afford to go out, because it's not a cheap thing. If people are travelling, like we spoke about earlier, to clubs, they can't really afford the hotels, the drink money, ticket money, the travelling to get there. I mean, it's expensive, and people can't afford it with the economy. So there's less events, and I think that it's been less attractive for the so-called A-list and elite DJs to come to the UK in the last probably 10 years nearly now. But that made it increasingly difficult as a promoter to book the DJs, because the big DJs are the ones that the people will come to. So it made your events ridiculously difficult to put bums on seats. But as a DJ, the UK market's gone to bigger shows now and less often. So it's not really a weekly club night scene anymore, unless you're down in London, where there's lots of people there and to cater for that. But in the Midlands, and I think not anywhere outside of London, it's bigger shows less often. So there's less work for UK DJs, definitely.
But I just wonder why the UK has kind of fallen out of love with, around the globe, it's never been bigger. It's, Asia, Australia, America. I mean, South America's nuts for the stuff, but the UK has this apathy towards it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, your parents will always tell you they don't make them like they're used to and all this, and a lot of the people who like the real trance, so to speak. I mean, they will always revert back to the '99 era. I mean, maybe it's just a transition that's been happening for the last 100 years or so, when music taste always changes and things evolve, and the kids like new stuff almost. So, they don't make the. I mean, they don't make them like they used to. I mean,
I butt in there because I don't think they didn't make them. Like, I've been really buzzed up about sort of not that 138 trance. The more style of you guys, your Juna Beats, I'm really loving, and it kind of crosses into deep house and stuff now. And there's some really, really talented guys out there. You know, we've had them on, Audion and you, Seven Skies, and just the sound design, the mixing, the chordal changes and stuff are you know, as good as anything that was produced in 1998, 99. You know, so I mean, I
100% agree with that, but it's a transition. I mean, is the music that I make actual trance, or is it house, or is it progressive? I mean, the actual trance heads, so to speak, will say it's not trance, it's trance, or because it's not 138, and it's defined by the tempo, which is absolutely wrong. I mean, years ago there was trance, house, hard house, techno. Now there's sort of progressive house trance, or hard super house, or whatever. Do you know? There's just so many subgenres within the genre. I think it's great for music. I think there's just stacks more choice out there for everybody.
I mean, when I first started DJing back in 98, 99, we would have dropped a techno record towards the end. At the start, there would have been some sort of like acidy, really minimal thing, and then some trance, and it was this sort of broad depth. And then over the course of our career, 7 years, it became Armin style trance, Paul Van Dyke style trance, and it became so pigeonholed and you couldn't stray. And I absolutely detested that. I thought, this is ludicrous. Why? Who wants to go and hear just one specific sound of trance for the next 3 hours, rather than you could hear all these amazing electronic sounds? And
I totally agree. At the end of the day, it's a disco. I mean, nowadays it's one DJ playing on some decks that's selling out a football stadium. It's completely changed, and people follow DJs and artists now because of the sound that they produce. So it's not like they're going to a DJ used to play records. Now it's the DJ is the artist. He's like a rock star. It's like holding a guitar, almost playing his music that he's made in his studio.
A great thing that we used to say is, back when we probably first started in Passion, was we used to DJ to promote our records, and now we make records to promote our DJing. And that's how it's changed. Damien, it has been absolutely amazing to talk to you and get an insight into your production world. You're making some of the best stuff in the UK at the moment, I think. I'm a real big fan of your productions. Thank you for joining us on Sonic Academy today, and hopefully we'll get to see you very, very soon on some stuff.
Sure.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Hope you got something from that interview, and we'll see you all very, very soon.